Good evening. I'm Gregory Morgan. Thank you for joining me. I'm the co-founder of Embrace Growth along with my wife, Dr. Azita Sayan, and together we do seminars and workshops throughout the world. So I'm not here to tell you about the workshops so much as to tell you and to speak with you about some of the content and some of the principles behind the workshops we do at Embrace Growth. What will give you the most freedom from your past? And when I say freedom from your past, I mean freedom, not that you forget your past, not that you pretend the past never happened, and it's not even that you get over your past or you overcome and learn to tolerate your past, but all of the negative, hindering things that may have happened to you in your past, the painful experiences that you may have experienced in the past. I'll say a little bit about what I mean when I say traumatizing. Trauma, people tend to think that trauma is either physical or emotional. Psychological trauma, regardless of the source of the trauma, all have certain things in common, and those things are that you are faced with overwhelming circumstances that surpass your mental, physical, emotional, spiritual ability to deal with them in a way that seems so threatening, whether it's true or not true. It seems life-threatening to a child, 4 or 5 years old, 7 years old, parent or a caregiver who is in charge of their safety and well-being. Strikes that child, but anywhere about the body, if it's forceful enough, especially if it is accompanied by angry expressions or words or loud sounds, is so shocking to the child that it is considered by the body as a death blow, the intent to kill. That's pretty overwhelming for a child, and there's just no way that they would have the wherewithal, the sophistication to properly interpret that blow as anything other than a threat to their life. Those traumatic experiences, a trauma doesn't have to be inflicted by another human being. However, most of them are, and regardless of the source of the trauma. You are also traumatized if you see something awful happen to another person. If you see a brutality or violence or hear horrible things that hurt from another person, or you witness brutality from one person to the next, even if it's not directed at you, those overwhelming life circumstances which seem life-threatening get all registered in the nervous system. So even though the sources of trauma may be various, the place where it ends up is always the same. It ends up stored in the memory molecules of your body, distributed throughout your body and your central nervous system. It affects your appetite. It affects your sensitivity to light. It affects what you are actually able to see and not see. It'll literally affect your eyesight, causing either like a tunnel vision, which could be manifest later on if you stay in that state as nearsightedness or farsightedness or myopia or difficulty seeing at night. So it'll affect your vision, it'll affect your appetite. You'll either want to eat too much or not enough. You'll have some kind of disorder around appetite, or you won't be able to digest your food properly, or any number of digestive problems. It affects your breathing, so you might have trouble later in life or thereafter getting a deep breath, breathing deeply, because it affects the diaphragm, which pulls down on the heart. It affects the heart, and it affects sexuality. So your sexuality will be affected in some way. Either you'll want too much or not enough, or you'll be turned off by sex, or you'll be obsessed by it. Some other difference in normal development in the area of sexuality. So trauma registers in the body. It'll affect sleep pattern. You either want to sleep all the time, or you can't fall asleep, or you fall asleep and wake up many times during the night, or you have troubled sleep, or you sweat at night, but it'll affect your peaceful sleeping. So all of these things are not only evidence, but proof, if you will, that trauma is stored in the body. It's not out there someplace, and it's not just in your head. It affects the entire physical structure of your body, physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. I'm always talking about on this show that we are a spiritual being having a physical experience. You have a body. Your body doesn't have you. You're not a body that has a spirit. You're a spirit that has a body. The spirit or the soul or the energy system that is more abstract, right? If we cut you open, we won't see it in there. It's invisible, so it's measurable. We know it's there. It's like the wind. You can't see the wind, but you see that it blows a tree over. You see that it takes a roof off a house. You can see the effects of the wind. I think it's kind of futile to argue. I mean, a lot of people say, well, what's your proof or evidence that there's a soul or a spirit? Well, you're alive, and when that thing is gone, what's left is a body, and they say it's dead. It is that thing which gives life to inanimate and as well as animate objects. So I think there's plenty of evidence that you are a spirit and that you are having a physical experience. Now, if that system, that physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual system is threatened, its response is one of three things: to fight back, to run away, either of which would be a successful strategy. If you are afraid or threatened and you run away and you live, hey, that was a good strategy. It worked. People can call you a coward if you want. You're alive, right? So good job. You got your job done. You stayed alive. If you fight back and you overcome that obstacle, even if you're hurt or injured, but you stayed alive, as far as your nervous system is concerned, good job, you got the job done, you stayed alive, that's what's important. That primitive brain, all that matters is that you stay alive. Either you stay alive or you die. That's all it cares about, staying alive, and so that's what it's designed to do. Is it designed to make you happy? No, absolutely. It could care less about your happiness. All it cares is that your heart keeps beating, that your lungs keep breathing, and that you stay alive. It's a very, very primitive model of the part of our brain that we all share. It's very the animalistic, survival-based part of our brain. Does that part of your brain interpret time? No, it does not. There's no time for the primitive brain. So a trauma that happened 20 years ago is still happening right now. There's no past for that. It happened and it's still there. This is why you'll see people reproducing in their life traumatic events that happened a long time ago, maybe as a child or whatever. It's a statistical fact that people who are raped tend to get raped again. Go explain that, okay? Go explain that. There's so many different theories about that. The theory that I believe is happening is that when there is reoccurring trauma of the same nature, is that being, the individual, is subconsciously guided or drawn to situations in which they could have a chance to resolve that original trauma. It's an attempt to become whole again. It's an attempt to self-heal or to face a situation, and now that they're older or something, more sophisticated, to learn from that experience and to attempt to reproduce something like that so that they could win this time and become whole and have a victory over the past. Now, this isn't on a conscious level. This is all happening completely under the hood, so to speak. It's running the person's life even though they don't know it. And so most addictions are an attempt to shut off those feelings, whether it be drug addiction, alcohol, tobacco, sexual addiction, gambling. It's an attempt to, and now there's, internet addiction and Facebook addiction. There's lots of other addictions that have come about with the electronic age that we didn't have to even consider before, but now you have to consider that they have the same effect to shut down, numb out, avoid the feelings so you don't have to feel something that you already know, so that you don't have to have the feelings that go with the knowledge. Now, the knowledge may be, like I said, real or imagined. In the example of the child that I gave earlier, a parent said, be very angry and hit you and say, I'm going to kill you, right? Now, your parent is really probably not really ever intending to kill you, but the fact that they say that accompanied with a blow makes it very real for a child. That's why I'm saying a real or imagined, because the subconscious mind cannot and does not differentiate between a real or an imagined circumstance. That's why your memories are not a reliable record of what actually happened. You remember impressions, sounds, visions, words, and some of those sounds, visions, words, and interpretation come from your subconscious mind. They're mapped onto actual physical happening that takes place. So that's why if you ask 10 people that saw a car accident what happened, there'll be 10 different points of view about what actually happened. Don't look to your memory as an accurate record of the circumstances that happened. because ultimately it doesn't matter what really happened. What your subconscious mind pulls up is what's really important. That's what there is to deal with. That's why hypnotherapy works. That's why hypnotism works, because we work with an individual's subconscious mind, giving access to whatever is there. Doesn't actually matter whether it's real or not, whether what the person remembers is really happened or not. What matters is that they remember it. And to remember is just the opposite word of the word dismember. Right? We are beings who have parts of ourselves that have been dismembered, if you will. They've been cut off, like losing an arm, or to make it really graphic, or losing an arm, losing a member of ourselves. We are complex, multi-personality beings, and when those beings, when those personalities, or those parts of our personalities split off or fracture, the integrity of the structure of the being gets shattered. And so we attempt to remember, to pull back to ourselves the various parts of ourselves in order to become whole and complete, in order to be a whole and complete, self-possessed and powerful person again. So we are subconsciously driven to create circumstances and situations in which we will have the opportunity to fulfill that. That's why we have people who often will have the same traumatic experience over and over. They'll have the same bad relationship over and over. They'll marry somebody like their father or their mother that they didn't have a good relationship with, so that they can attempt to resolve that relationship. Or they'll marry somebody either just like or the opposite of somebody that they had a bad relationship with in the past, in an attempt to resolve that relationship, not realizing that they're keeping that relationship around. I'm going to go ahead and take some calls, because that's a lot more interesting than me giving you a lecture about your subconscious mind. Hello, this is Gregory, and you're live on the air with Love Talk.
Hi, Mr. Morgan.
Hi, how are you?
A question. What would be your answer for if you have a client, and if the lady client, for example, but I have my friend, but she doesn't speak English. She like her therapist, and she cannot get rid of this feeling. So
she wants to, but she can't is not true, obviously. Okay, I'm just telling the truth about something that you said. She can do anything she wants. Nobody's making her go to a therapist. Okay, so let's just tell the truth about that. All right, now whether she has feelings for her therapist or not, that's kind of natural. I think a lot of people that happens to. It's called transference. If in your life you don't have anyone who actually listens to you and understands you and has compassion for the things that you're going through in life, then when you meet somebody that you're actually paying to do that, and they actually have authentic caring and compassion for the things in your life, and they seem to understand you and they have patience with you, it would be natural to have feelings of love towards them, because why not? Isn't that what we love about other people, is that they care about us? So it's kind of a natural thing, even though it's not exactly the healthiest part of therapy. If her therapist is good at his or her job, they will recognize that and address it and deal with it. But hiding it is not the best way to deal with it. Going away is not the best way to deal with it. The best way to deal with it is to say, you know what, I'm struggling with this. I have feelings for you as my therapist, and I want to talk about that, and then get that dealt with in the therapy session, because that's part of a therapeutic process for a person to begin to transfer their positive feelings, that maybe have been suppressed onto the therapist. Okay?
But she's afraid if she say that he might not see her anymore.
Well, then that might be the best thing for her, okay? But either way, she's keeping the problem around by A, not addressing it, B, lying about the fact that she can't stop seeing her therapist, because that's not true. C, not telling her therapist because she's afraid her therapist would tell her to go away, which if he told her to go away might be the best thing for her.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much. Hello, this is Gregory. You're live on the air.
Hello, Gregory. How are you, sir?
I'm excellent. Thank you.
Good.
How can I help you?
Actually, I have to get to the point and just let you know that my husband is I believe I guess he's having a relationship with other women. So I was wondering, what should I do? I mean, should I deal with this, or what would be my right approach?
Well, yeah, you got to deal with that.
Yeah, so I was wondering if you could help me.
Is he aware that you know about it?
Not yet.
How long have you known about it?
It's been months. We just find us having some, I believe, text messages.
So it's been months, but you recently found out because of some text messages?
Yes, sir.
And from the text messages, you're able to discern that it's been going on for a while?
No, it wasn't just, he told somebody and was told by the person. Basically, it wasn't like, it wasn't obvious, but he just obviously said that, yeah, since you're not here, I'm here physically, not with him. Since I've been involved, I've lost a mother, I'm not, according to my husband's mind, I'm not here. So basically, he thought that he can replace me. From his perspective, I am here, but I am not with him.
Well, why does he have that perspective? Does that mean you live in the same house, sleep in the same bed, and eat the same food? What does that mean?
Yes, physically I'm here, but emotionally he's lacking as a man who needs a woman, not with him. And basically the reason is because I've lost mother and I'm mourning. I am not with him. This is how he is telling me that,
Okay, so you lost your mother. How long ago?
A year ago.
Exactly. Okay, how long are you going to mourn that?
Well, I believe I'm going to mourn forever.
Okay. I suggest you get over it. Everybody's mother dies,
I understand.
Do you feel like it's an obligation to keep mourning that, even if it's starting to cost you your relationship with your husband?
I guess, I know it doesn't make sense somehow.
Well, no, it doesn't make sense because he's alive and he needs you and she's dead and she doesn't.
Exactly. I do understand your point. This is what...
Well, I know you understand it, but what are you going to do about it? It's kind of like I understand that if I stick my hand in the garbage disposal and turn it on, I'm going to destroy my arm. Okay, but I can't help it. I keep doing it.
I understand. No, what I'm saying is that I know I'm the one who gets the blame. And as you want,
I'm not looking for blame. I'm looking for a solution, my friend.
Solution is that's why I called you. I want to know
Okay, so you need to be available for your husband, and listen. How do you resolve mourning? First of all, there's certain steps to mourning, and they're widely known. Okay, you can look them up on the internet.
Yes, I did.
Right, and then you need to take responsibility for going through them. You're not a victim. Your mother dying doesn't make you be some kind of victim that now gets to use that event to avoid her responsibilities in life and then wonder why it's costing you so much.
Exactly.
Your responsibilities, listen, if your mom dies, you still got to pay the mortgage. If your mom dies, you still got to get up in the morning and feed your kids. If your mom dies, you still got to go to work. Everybody's mom dies. And I don't mean to be cold about it, but isn't it a fact?
Yes, it is. It is.
Yeah, you're a mother. Are you a mother?
No, sir.
If you were a mother, you would die anyhow. And would you want your kids to mourn you?
No, definitely not. I don't believe I would. Yeah.
I don't want anybody to mourn me. I mean, I kind of hope they show up and miss me a little bit, but I don't want them to. I don't want them to go through a big deal about it.
That's right. That's right.
And to tell you the truth, it won't matter to me from where I'm going to be. Whether they mourn me or not is their business, not mine.
But you would understand my situation. No.
I understand your situation. However, and I'm not, listen, please, I hope you don't think that I'm saying you're to blame or something like that. And I don't even want you to use that word blame with yourself.
Sure.
Okay? Because blame implies shame and guilt, and you have nothing to be ashamed of, and you're certainly not guilty. So don't blame yourself. Okay, but responsible does not mean blame. It's actually the opposite end of the spectrum. Blame, shame, and guilt is over here. Responsibility is a privilege, and it's a heroic stance. One is a victim stance. Oh, poor me, the world happened to me, and I'm a victim, right? And over here is a hero stance, like you know what? I'm causing my reality, and I cause the things that happen in my life, and I have the privilege of being aware of that
And be responsible.
and doing something about it, right? That takes courage. That takes chutzpah. That takes something, right?
Exactly.
So I'm not asking you to be guilty. I'm asking you to be responsible, okay?
Exactly what he's reminding me.
Yeah, just be responsible. Listen, does being responsible feel good? Not most of the time it doesn't, okay?
Yes.
A lot of times it feels difficult, especially in a world where nobody else is being responsible. If you decide to be responsible, good luck, because nobody's going to agree with you, right?
That's true.
Yeah, it's not a world that's encouraging responsibility. In fact, it's a world that, culturally and also just as a sign of our times, somebody else is always to blame. They are, the government is, the terrorists are, the banks are. Somebody's always responsible, not me, right?
That's right.
Right. So you look in the news, everybody's like racing to find out who's to blame. And most arguments are the argument for the victim position. Like, oh, no, you did me worse than I did you. No, you didn't. I'm much more of a victim than you are. No, I'm the biggest victim here, right? If you look at the conversation behind other people's arguments and your arguments, we're arguing for who's the most victim here.
Well,
So
basically,
why would you do that, right?
That's right. What he's going to be. Remember
Yeah,
what
he's the victim. He's saying, no, I'm the victim. You weren't here for me.
Yeah, he's going
Right?
to tell me, I remember one day you used this sentence. You said, there are people who are going to be using the same emotion of, oh, you made me do this. This is, however he's going to look at life, and I am the one who made him do this. It
Right.
doesn't matter what he does. I mean, if he's going to love me or replace me, I am the reason for it.
Right. So here's you remember when I just said how being the responsible one is often not comfortable, right?
That's right.
Because nobody wants to be responsible.
Nobody wants this.
Right? So look, if you decide to be responsible,
Yes.
I'll put it to you this way. If I gave you a hammer, whose responsibility is it to get value from the hammer?
It's my responsibility.
Right? Now, I don't know, you may or may not have a nail to drive, but it's your responsibility, right? If I give you a car, whose responsibility is it to get value out of the car, right?
Okay.
Yours. And if you drive it into a ditch, whose responsibility is that?
Responsible, exactly.
Right? So if you choose to be responsible, the word simply means able to respond. That's all it means.
So
right?
what should I do now?
If you decide to be responsible, then your responsibility is independent of anybody else's. You're responsible if everybody in the whole world says it's your fault. You can say, it's not my fault, but I am responsible.
Responsible.
Right? I'm responsible, and here's what I'm going to do about it. This circumstance is not acceptable.
Okay.
Okay? I accept my part in it. If I have been unavailable for you, then I'm going to change that right now, starting now. What do you need from me to make it right?
Wow. That is from your perspective, I mean, from your point of view as a man, I believe it is so easy to say that. But remember, I'm a woman.
I know. I don't know what he's going to need from you.
It's comfortable for you to say that. I mean, it's so easy.
Sounds good, doesn't it?
I sure, Mr. Morgan, I don't know what to do. I mean, I cannot fathom after all these years. I mean, loyalty, compassionate, I mean, being caring and loving, and forget about all of it, and then suddenly you can replace the woman, the woman like me. I mean, I don't know, in a humble way of speaking.
Yeah, well, I understand, though. Listen, I don't think he would be able to replace you.
It doesn't matter.
I think that he's using somebody for a crutch, and I think that if he's abandoning his I assume that when you married, you made an agreement to be monogamous.
That's right.
And to be with each other for the rest of your life.
Right.
That is a word of honor, and I would expect that he would be honorable and honor that. It doesn't matter, and just like responsibility, honor doesn't mean that you feel good about it.
Exactly.
Honor doesn't mean that, ooh, everything's so cool because I'm honorable. Hell no, it gets worse.
That's right.
Right? When you choose a path of honor and integrity,
That's
everything that's dishonorable shows up in your face.
That's
and you have to deal with it. And most of that stuff is about you. Okay?
Oh, yes. Unfortunately, it's a one-way street.
Right, yeah. If you decide to live an honorable life and to live a life of integrity, then all of the things that would test that begin to show up. Now, I can testify from my own experience that if you continue on that path, that eventually those tests, if you will, that seem to pop up out of everywhere, tend to fall away and stop coming up.
That's correct.
Okay?
That's true. That's true.
But if you haven't made this firm decision to live that way, opportunities to break your integrity and your honor are everywhere. They're just everywhere, and they'll pull on you. You know, they're like attractive. It's like, ooh, a shiny penny. Like you're on your way to work to make $1 million, but there's a shiny penny. Oh, look, you found something, and you get distracted, and you go off down the road with this shiny thing, right? You're on your way to having a magnificent life with a woman that's loved you and been devoted with you and shared your life with you and been a witness to all your weaknesses and, you know, supported you and everything. And then, oh, there's a shiny one. Let's look at that, right?
Normal, right? Yeah, nowadays it is so normal. I mean, you don't expect.
Right? And there's always a shiny one. There's always a shiny one. Look at how women dress and act and do their makeup these days. I mean,
to get that
I like it.
To get that attention. That's
yeah, well, I, you know, of course men like it. That's what it's for, right? It's a multi-billion-dollar industry. You know, wonder bras and high heels and eyelashes and the whole thing, right? All this equipment so that men will look. So
that's right. Unfortunately. Yes.
Well, unfortunately or fortunately, depending on whether or not you're which end of the industry you're on, right? I mean, I'm kind of having fun with it. It's a joke, but I mean, there'll always be a shiny, pretty young women, right? And you know, there's always, you know, and I have to deal with that in my own life. Listen, there's always somebody younger, handsomer, richer, whatever, smarter than me. You know.
But Mr. Morgan, let's say that I'm going to really agree with your point and say, okay, I'm going to do that, although it's going to be very hard for me. But if I do that, do you believe that that's going to be more beneficial for me and my life or our lives, or is it something that?
Well, yes, I do believe that. I believe that by any time a person takes responsibility for their life, and by that I mean the content, circumstances, and situations of your life, all of it. There's no end to what you can be responsible for, right?
Sure.
You can even be responsible for what another does to another.
Definitely.
Now, that's more advanced conversation, but yes, you can, you know? You can be responsible for that somewhere in your heart, in your life, in your space, in the environment that you chose to be in, that those things are happening, and that you do, the fact that it's come to your attention, a signal that you could actually do something about it. Because I don't believe, this is my belief, and I live by this, that the universe will never give you something that you can't deal with.
So in order to be actually successful and if I'm going to take this path or this approach, I guess I have to suppress my emotion first.
Well, you don't have to suppress it. I don't suggest suppressing emotion. I do suggest containing and controlling emotion.
All right.
So that you use emotion as a motivation. Emotion simply means energy in motion. Okay? So it's energy that's stored up, right? Hurt, anger, frustration, sadness, whatever, right?
Whatever that's
it's some kind of energy. And if you suppress it, then it'll eventually come out, but it won't be in a controlled or contained fashion, you see. It'll just happen. One day you'll drop a glass of water and all of a sudden you'll just start crying and break all the furniture or something, you know? It'll be crazy. So you want to allow your emotions to move, but in a contained and controlled fashion. A lot of the work that we do in our workshops has to do with expressing emotions that have been suppressed all their lives. So in a controlled fashion, that in an environment where we can actually support them in having that expression in a healthy and fruitful way, so that it actually turns out well. You see?
That's right.
Right? If you get really, really angry and you just, go beat on somebody, that's probably not going to turn out too good, right? But if you get really, really angry and maybe you just like go sit in your car and go, ah, right? Or go chop some wood or do something so that adrenaline part, the rage part, the crazy part.
Courage to be wild, right?
Can get out.
The topic.
Right, can get out and then address the topic in a, somewhat sensible fashion. In other words, I suggest that we learn to use emotion rather than having emotion use us.
Okay.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Yes.
And that's an art. It's a skill. I don't expect you to master that instantly.
I'm an artist, as a matter of fact. I can use that.
Yeah, but that's a skill. But what I do suggest is that you take responsibility for your own emotions and feelings. Take responsibility for your part in it, meaning, okay, maybe I wasn't very available. Maybe I don't know, I was so into my own feelings and stuff about my mom passing that
that is so true.
I didn't pay attention to you. I abandoned you, and listen, I'm sorry. I see that now, and I want to make up for it. And what would it take to do that?
I'm gonna try this.
Give me a chance to make this right, because I'm gonna do that. And then whatever things that you've sort of let go in your life, I don't know if you let go of the housekeeping, or if you let go of your physical appearance, or if you let go of your making meals, or whatever it is that you did that's missing for him, sex or whatever.
I'm doing all of it, except I'm not with him.
You're just checked out.
Yes, yes, sir.
You're emotionally unavailable. You're just like vacant. You're not there, right?
Yes, and he's telling me, I'm tired of you wearing black.
I got it. Okay, well, cut it out then. Just tell him I'm done with that. I'm not going to do the black thing anymore. Just make a change, and then listen. You're going to have to. There's two parts to this. I'm in this business where we do workshops, right? And there's two parts to it: enrollment and registration. Enrollment's where somebody's really interested and they want to hear all about it, and they go, "Wow, that's really great. I would love to do it," right? Registration's where you actually fill out a form and you give us a credit card and you're committed, right? In other words, you make a commitment that you can't take back, right?
That is so true. Yes.
Right?
Registration would do.
Right. So you need to enroll him. Listen, I'm going to change, and you're going to see it, and I'm going to do it, and starting today. And then you need to register. You need to go, see all these black clothes? I'm putting them away, right? And starting today, I'm going to do this, or whatever it is. Make some change that is like an irrevocable kind of commitment that he can actually physically go, okay, I see that. Let's see how this is going to go. Okay, you need to enroll him and then register him.
It doesn't work. I have to, I guess, call your office and find out that what would be my next.
Well, okay, then. We'll support you in that. We're experts at that.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you so much, sir.
All right. Thank you for your call, and I appreciate talking with you.
Wonderful day.
All right. You too. Good day. Earlier, we were speaking about how early traumas affect the way that you eat, sleep, drink, make love. It affects your entire nervous system, and it is stored within the nervous system. Talk therapy, in other words, just talking about it, will often bring up all the memories and thoughts and feelings and emotions, and that is a very healthy thing to do. It will offer you the opportunity to deal with them in the light of a conscious decision about what's working and not working in your life. If you have something that's operating on a subconscious level and that's controlling, literally controlling your life, it's like a virus in your computer. It's making your computer go slower, using your computer's database to send emails or whatever. In other words, there's an unwanted behavior that is subconsciously, meaning below the level of your conscious waking awareness, operating inside of your system and causing an unwanted behavior. Okay, and that unwanted behavior could be addictions. It could be bad habits of any kind. It could be sudden temper or short-tempered. It could be depression. It could be a lot of things. Okay, the manifestation of it is very individualized in that you choose how you're going to deal with this, and because because you survived the original trauma by doing this behavior, it sets the pattern for a way of behaving for the rest of your life. If how you dealt with the trauma is to become small and meek and very quiet and humble, then you might tend to be very quiet and humble for the rest of your life. If how you dealt with it is to get really angry and fight back or go into a rage, then you might be rageful. And so forth. Okay, those are two examples. But anyhow, that's what I wanted to say, is that those patterns become ingrained, and then they just become who you are. They become known as your personality. It's how you get a job. It's how you get a relationship. It's how you run your life, how you run your business. It just becomes a part of who you think you are. All of it being a response to a traumatic experience that's happening underneath the surface and that is ongoing because it never got resolved. So talk therapy will often bring these things up into someone's face, and you can deal with them then in the light of your conscious waking awareness, and you can make some choices and decisions about what works and doesn't work in your life. That's the benefit of that. Very often, many therapists don't know how to bring those things up, which is like opening a wound, right, and pulling out something ugly, right, and then close it back up in a way that you can heal and become whole and complete again. Okay, and so that's the work we do at Embrace Growth. But it's not so much about opening you up and closing you up. My point about all of this is that it is very aligned with the old Tibetan saying, "Early trauma, great destiny." You see, the Tibetans knew that when somebody very early in life experienced a traumatic event, that their entire nervous system was stimulated and agitated and put on a hyper alert to deal with that circumstance. And they knew that it set the pattern for that being's development throughout life, and that whatever negative thing, if the person lives long enough and lives in an environment that encourages wholesome living, and of course in Tibet they, I can't say that everything is wholesome there, but in ancient times that was a more an environment that developed a human being in a more holistic way. Given the proper circumstances, whatever made that person weak, frightened, afraid, held them back, terrified them, traumatized them in early life, would eventually become their strong point, would eventually become something that they would be brilliant at, would eventually give birth to genius. If you look throughout history, all of those who we've called geniuses, if you did research into the background of them, you would find that something very troublesome in their early beginnings. Okay? I'm not saying that the only way to become a genius is to get traumatized when you're early. I'm just saying that it's very often the case that the people who we relate to as being brilliant and shining have often had very difficult, challenging, traumatic circumstances happen to them at an early age. And it doesn't have to be some kind of mythic, horrible thing. You know, it could be an abusive brother, you know, somebody at school that did something to them. It doesn't have to be some horrible thing that their parents did to them over and over or anything like that. Early trauma often leads to a great destiny. Based on that knowledge, based on that understanding, we work with people so that they begin to not just overcome, not just heal, not just get better, not just deal with, not just sort of manage or tolerate the circumstances or the mental malfunctions that they got going on in their life. No, way beyond that, so that they begin to see that it is a part of their great destiny, so that they can actually begin to get turned on and excited about what has been developing all along. Does it have some painful stages? Yeah, maybe 30, 40, 50 years sometimes that people go through painful stages only then to arrive at a sort of awakening and a aha. Now, obviously, our desire, our strongest desire, is to get people as early as possible in their life. We open our workshops to 18 years old, and if their parents are there or their parents have done their workshop. We've let a couple of people in that were younger than that, but we want you to be able to have your brain and your central nervous system somewhat fully developed, or mostly developed, before we take you into a workshop. But people go into the workshops, and the earlier on, just the longer they have, longer lifetime they have ahead of them instead of behind them, in which they can grow and develop and become their full potential. So we like to help people not just deal with their problems, because that's not it's beside the point. Dealing with your problems is beside the point. Your problems are a gift to you. And we leave people with that understanding. You see, I've had many, many traumatic and horrible and terrible things and hard things happen in my life, and I wouldn't trade one of them for anything. I'm not proud of them, I'm not ashamed of them, but they made me who I am, and I'm proud of who I am. And I'm excited about what's possible for me, what's available to me, and none of that, most of that, I could have never arrived at had I avoided those difficult circumstances in the beginning of my life. I would have just had a different life, that's all. But those very circumstances gave me the impetus, the drive, the desire to not only heal myself, but it was so powerful in me that I wanted to share that healing with other people, and I began to do that, and now it's just become the purpose of my life. That's what we do. So that's why we've called a company called Embrace Growth. Like, embrace that. Like, whatever is driving you, don't run away from it. Embrace it. And those things that are the most troublesome to you are the things that are your subconscious mind telling your conscious mind. It's a signal from below the surface of your awareness sometimes. If it is brought up into your awareness, especially if it's brought up 2, 3, 4, 5 times, right? A repetitive problem, in other words, the same kind of circumstances seems to repeat itself, in other words, that is a signal from your subconscious that it is time to deal with it. And I also asserted earlier in the show, and will always assert, that the universe, God, whatever you want to call it, will never give you something that you're not capable of dealing with. It won't come up until you're ready to deal with it. When you're ready to deal with it, it'll come up, and it'll keep coming up, because now your strongest drive, and this is the strongest drive in humanity, is to have our inner world be congruent with our outer world. You see, inside of you, there is a memory, a physical, mental, spiritual, and emotional memory of a kind of perfection and a divine belongingness and love and well-being that is your natural birthright. It's a who you are phenomenon. It's not where you want to get to. It's not out there. It's all in here, and it always has been. It's who you are. And there are layers and layers and layers of experience and circumstances and conditioning and the environment that we live in that is very convincing that that is not who you are. Very convincing. When you look out into the world, it's very convincing to see reflected back to you that you're not good enough, you're not smart enough, you're not rich enough, you're not sexy enough, you're not tall enough, you're not white enough or dark enough or whatever, right? There's because the state of the world is designed to motivate you to be more. And so you're always going to get a reflection back that you're not enough of something. Nothing could be further from the truth. You are enough. You're more than enough. And so we work with people to uncover that essential truth. Not, oh, you're screwed up and this is why you're screwed up and you've always been screwed up and it's their fault that you're screwed up, or, you know, their parents or their school or their religion or their political system or whatever made you be that way. You know, no, that's beside the point. It really truly is. You don't get through life without having false circumstances convincing you that you're less than who you truly are. Seems to be part of the deal. How many of you grew up with parents reminding you from age 0 that you are a true, beautiful, and divine reflection of God, and that you have nothing but joy, happiness, and love to look forward to, and that everybody in your world is always going to be honest and true with you and authentic, and that so you're free and you're not threatened. You know, you're free to be honest and true and authentic, and so you can be responsible for that. No, nobody grew up like that. You didn't grow up like that. I didn't grow up like that. Nobody has parents like that. It is my desire, it is my intention, and it is the intention of Embrace Growth and the whole team that we worked with. Your grandchildren grow up with those parents. Your children grow up with parents like that. That the future generations will be evolved to the point where the things that we are teaching today will no longer need to be taught, because it'll just be a matter of fact. Most advanced technology schools in the world, MIT, or any of the others that are teaching the advanced technology, they are teaching the students to deal with technology that for the most part will be completely irrelevant by the time they graduate and get into their chosen field. There are problems and issues in future technology we don't even know yet, that hasn't even been developed yet, that nobody's ever thought of yet. And the same is true in humanity. Humanity is not a finished subject. This isn't it. Oh, well, this is it. This is how it turned out. However your world is, that's how it's turned out. How's it working for you is the question. And what are you going to do about it is the next question. You know, who's responsible for your life is the next question. We don't know what's possible for human beings, and it's possible that there have been far more advanced civilizations that have lived on this planet. That's a whole nother show. But this civilization, the one that we are living in currently today, is at the point of almost annihilating the planet and themselves. So I believe that there's something possible for human beings, and that it's an inside job. That the future of our careers, the future of our families, the future and nature of our personal loving relationships are yet to be discovered. And that the seed to that, if you will, the source of that is coming to know yourself for who you truly are, not who everybody else thinks you are, who people say you are, who the circumstances tell you are, but who you truly are. And how are you ever going to discover that on your own? Long time ago, people used to go close themselves up, mostly men, but some women did, close themselves up in a cave and stay with themselves so long in such a sensory deprivation state, they would either die or get enlightened, okay? They would have some kind of a personal self-discovery. Often coming out of that were of no particular use to the rest of the world, but they themselves had their own personal self-discovery and enlightenment and realization, or not. Since they were alone in the cave, who knew, right? And maybe they came out and felt like they had to have something to show for it, so they said something that sounded mysterious and great to all that listened. But for the most part, those who went to monasteries and caves and so forth, it was a personal job. It was like discovering for themselves God or enlightenment, if you will. And then, you know, very few of them ever wanted to take that enlightenment or that knowledge out into the world and share it with others, because they kind of didn't see the point. So that was a very old technology. Spending 20 years in a cave, that's old technology. Okay? Reading ancient scriptures and repeating them like a mantra over and over and over again, it works. But it's old technology. I'm not saying that it's irrelevant. It works, but there's faster, better, more sophisticated and refined and to the point ways of developing. Human brain has developed, human nervous system has developed. You know, if any one of you watching this show can, operate an iPhone, I'm sure, and it's got like at least 1,000 things that it can do, right? Many of them simultaneously. Many of you, I'm sure everybody knows how to operate a computer. Send messages from one side of the planet to maybe even thousands or millions of people simultaneously at the push of a button. So we know how to do things. We're much more sophisticated. And some of you, you can do that while you're driving your car. I wish you wouldn't, but because I ride a motorcycle and I'm very threatened by that. But people can do multiple things at the same time that the people that used to sit in caves, they couldn't do that. People from former civilizations, maybe they couldn't even write or read or do arithmetic, but they had through diligent meditation, a realization of God. Fine, great. What difference did it make for the rest of the world? So the work that we're doing at Embrace Growth is about having you make the difference that you came here to make. I believe that if you're alive and awake and aware in this time and this generation, and certainly if you're watching this show or my wife's show or any show in which there's somebody talking about the expansion of human consciousness, that's no accident. Something, because there's millions of things that you could be doing besides that right now. But even if you're watching this on YouTube 50 years from now, something drew you to that particular conversation so that you could begin to awake. That's about it for the show today. So we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. If there's any questions that you would like to address, you can also find my email on that website. It's Gregory at embracegrowth.com, and you can look me up on Facebook as well. And, I'm happy to answer your questions if there's something I can help you with, okay? Thank you very much. I'll see you back here again next week on Love Talk.
Dr. Sayan's YouTube channel is the place to find quick, free, and timely answers to all of your relationship questions. If you like our content, click the like button on our videos and let us know what you think in the comment section below. Send us your questions through social media or by calling in during the show. Subscribe to get notifications about new videos and when we're streaming live. Join us during the week to watch our shows live. See the latest videos from Dr. Azita Sayan and your favorite clips of Doña Yeshk. Visit us at youtube.com/Dr. Azita Sayan.
یک مرد منحصر به فرد، مسلط، متمرکز، قابل اعتماد و رضایتمند. چنین مردی باشید. به ما در مسیر رسیدن به قلب مردانگی بپیوندید و خود برترتان را درون خود بیابید. کارگاه شرافت، عزت کلام و مهارت به رهبری دکتر آزیتا سایان ارائه شده توسط شرکت امبریس گروث در ایروان 9 تا 11 آگوست. همین امروز ثبت نام کنید و شاهد تحول زندگیتان باشید. اپلیکیشن امبریس گروث با ساختن اکانت شخصی شما می توانید وارد پروفایل خود شده و تنظیمات آن را تغییر دهید. به تمامی رویدادها و محصولات دسترسی داشته باشید. با چند کلیک برای سمینارها و کارگاه‌ها ثبت نام کنید و یا وقت مشاوره خود را رزرو نمایید. اپلیکیشن امبریس گروث را امروز از اپ استور دانلود کنید و به خانواده جهانی امبریس گروث بپیوندید. اپلیکیشن امبریس گروث همکنون در اپ استور. با ساختن اکانت شخصی شما می توانید پروفایل خود را مدیریت و زبان مورد نظر خود را بین فارسی و انگلیسی انتخاب کنید. وقت مشاوره خود را رزرو نمایید. محصولات از جمله CD، DVD و کتاب‌ها را خریداری و دانلود نمایید و یا برای کارگاه‌ها و سمینارها نام‌نویسی کنید. همچنین شما می توانید به برنامه‌های تلویزیونی و رادیویی دکتر سایان و یا آقای مورگن به صورت رایگان دسترسی داشته باشید. اپلیکیشن امبریس گروث را امروز از اپ استور دانلود کنید. یک مرد منحصر به فرد، مسلط، متمرکز، قابل اعتماد و رضایتمند. چنین مردی باشید. به ما در مسیر رسیدن به قلب مردانگی بپیوندید و خود برترتان را درون خود بیابید. کارگاه شرافت، عزت کلام و مهارت به رهبری دکتر آزیتا سایان ارائه شده توسط شرکت امبریس گروث در ایروان 9 تا 11 آگوست. همین امروز ثبت نام کنید و شاهد تحول زندگیتان باشید.
Embrace Growth has a new home online where you can easily register for workshops and events, order from the online store, and be part of the worldwide community of Embrace Growth graduates. You'll be able to see Dr. Rosita Sayan and Mr. Gregory Morgan in your favorite seminars. Visit us today at embracegrowth.com.